Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lyds and we're back for some more Thronebreaker, and last time we defeated a cranky old lady who was from Rivia, but was not a fan of Meve, and then after defeating her, we may have stolen some siege engines that she had, and that means we now actually have several copies of what seems to be a pretty powerful card that we've now added to our deck. That being the Reinforced Ballista, which does deal some pretty solid damage, at least if we play it early, which maybe not enough to make up for having lost Isbel, but is filling a similar role. The difference here primarily being that since you get this every turn, that can add up to a lot of damage if you play it early, but it is a card that you very much want to play early, whereas Isbel was kind of nice in that she was a late play, and we have a lot of stuff we like to play early, not as many things that we want to play late, so that might make it a little bit tricky to fit that in to other matches, but we'll see. We've yet to actually use it, of course, because we just got it. And as for what we have planned for today, we have this encounter right here that we presumably have to go through to proceed. And anytime we see something like that, I get nervous because there is, no workaround. If this encounter is really difficult, then we need to somehow find a way to complete it nonetheless. And if we cannot make that happen, then it might be game over. So I'm hoping that either this isn't a very difficult encounter, or that the slight changes we've made to our deck recently are enough to push us over the edge and still get the job done. So, I mean, we could, for that reason, also go to a shrine and get ourselves on high morale. That's maybe not a terrible idea, and in truth, with as many shrines... how many shrines do we have now? 1, 2, and 3? I'm a little bit tempted, but maybe we don't know yet if we need one, but that's perhaps a small ace we have up our sleeve. So let's see. What do we have here? Kaveldun, and that's definitely a Nilfgaardian dude. So this is going to be some sort of fight, I have to imagine.
Meve's force reached Kaveldun.
That's usually not a good sound effect.
Rundown town.
The Blackclads, they've a strong garrison in place,
Proclaimed her scouts upon returning from a foray.
and they stand prepared for a siege. Their
Oh.
stores overflow, and we've seen ballistas, scorpions.
Okay.
Kaveldun can be taken,
Began Reynard hesitantly.
but not without losses. Considerable losses.
A retreat. Is that what you advise?
I fear the soldiers wouldn't take to such a course. They're eager, Your Grace. They've a fire in them. Order a retreat and you could devastate morale.
Okay. Ooh. Well. Once upon a time, as we talked about pretty recently, in fact, we used to feel as though any time we were presented with an option like this, obviously you go in and you do the encounter, and you hopefully, you get the job done, and if you succeed, then you're going to benefit from it. It's basically just a way of the game saying, well, this might be difficult, so you might not want to do it, but if you take the risk, it will eventually pay off. So in the past, we used to always do these. However, in more recent past, we've seen several of our heroes leave. We are perhaps concerned for that reason that if we should actually lose a card or heroes, then that would be a catastrophic loss. If we lose the Skellige guys, it's like the run is over. There's no coming back from that at this point. So I don't know. We did actually hear something similar to this in possibly even in the encounter against the cranky old lady who we actually got some supplies from, some new cards from. So if we succeed, then if we get new stuff and bolster our deck, then absolutely, 100%, that's great. But is this warning we're getting just because the encounter is difficult, or is it because there's actually some negative consequence if we see it through? I think we still give it a shot. Maybe it's those extra ballistae that we added to our deck giving me more confidence than we should have at this point, feeling like we have more margin for error than we really do. But we'll give it a shot. And if it feels too difficult, we could just try again if it feels like we got unlucky, or we could go back to increase our morale. The thing is, the downside feels like it's just a loss of morale, which, especially with those shrines, is not a huge deal. And even without the shrines is not a huge deal in most cases. But if there's an opportunity cost here of, we might actually gain more cards if we succeed here, then I think we might need to take that chance. So let's go for it.
Our losses may be heavy,
said Meve, drawing her sword.
but I'll make certain the vile invader suffers even more. Order the troops to prepare. We will attack.
Soon after, the Lyrians moved on Kaveldun, war drums rumbling in step to their march. Upon
Because
the
losing...
walls, the Nilfgaardians
hold on.
stood poised to defend.
Yeah, because losing more basic soldiers or heroes obviously would be potentially catastrophic, depending on who we lose there. But there was mention of this place having a bunch of additional resources, scorpions and ballistic scorpions, is a different type of siege weapon. So if we were to add those types of cards to our deck, then that could be a really big deal. So that's, I guess, really the reason why I feel like we ought to take this chance. So let's see what we have here. I imagine it is considered a story battle. As we were saying, there's seemingly no way around this. It's a shortened battle, just one round. Okay, so the siege of Kaveldun, I forget how they were pronouncing it. When the Lyrians approach the walls, and if it's a story battle, sure, well, I don't know. Does that make it any less likely that we lose teammates, heroes in this battle? I don't know. We'll see. So when the Lyrians approached the walls of Kaveldun, they were greeted with a hail of bolts and arrows. The Nilfgaardians had made clear they had no intention of surrendering the city without a fight. Yet, if they believed such a tactic sufficient to discourage Meve's siege, a harsh truth awaited them. Okay, so let's see here. It's one round, which makes it tough to get good value out of the Skellige guys, is my first thought here. Okay, hold on. Let's see what we can learn. There is a castle gate. There are palisades. So you destroy this. Every turn start, boost a random ally by 2, give it 2 armor. So we don't like that. But if we destroy this, it destroys all palisades, boosts all enemies, meaning our cards, in hand, deck, and on the battlefield by 2. So basically, those two sides are very similar. It's, 2 points per turn, sort of. Or at least it's 2 points per turn for every turn that this stays alive. And then if we destroy it, then it's basically a whole bunch of, it's 1 turn worth of value per card we have. And since we start with a bunch of extra cards on the board and can get a bunch of cards out with our lead ability, might be able to get decent value out of that. So we do have solid damage with things like the Ballista and with Patricide, because the more units they have, the stronger. Wait, is it? No, it's units, and these are considered artifacts. Okay, so Patricide is not just a almost immediate way to destroy the wall, unfortunately. But the other thing that I was going to say is when we got the reinforced ballistae, that's the plural ballista for what it's worth. But the tricky thing with this is that we want to play it early, so we have as many turns as possible to get the damage and, cool down, do it on the next turn, so on and so forth. But, as we've said many times before, generally speaking, we want to load up on as many Skellige guys as we can, as early as we can, because that way we can more easily, or get the maximum number of them destroyed in our graveyard and then back out when we play Dogger later on. That's, however, most impactful in a multi-round match. And that is not the case here. It's just one round. So might this actually be a rare occasion on which we don't want to emphasize the Skellige guys as much, or we play them later on, and maybe it's just a single Dogger at the end of the match with our second leader ability. Something like that. I do wonder. I feel like we might get rid of Barnabas here. We will get more Skellige guys. So basically, is it turn 1 Ballista? I think it might be. And then you delay slightly on the Skellige dudes. That means leader ability turn 1. What's it going to be? Get more of the Ballistas out here? I thought we had a bunch in our deck. Do we really only have 2? We really only have 2? I guess we could do Ballista and then... Wait, how does this... Does this count as 1 charge, that order ability, in which case Reynard is actually pretty solid? That means we would still want to already have you on the board by the time we play, and have used your order ability by the time we play Reynard. Then we can get your order ability back with the loyal aspect, which we usually are not really considering much with Reynard. That is also a thing. Yeah. Okay. Think with leader ability, maybe we still feel kind of okay about this. Might swap out this disgraced brawler. For a warrior is probably a little bit better. Okay, we'll settle for this.
I won't leave a single city to these invader scum. For Lyria! For Rivia!
We've certainly seen many encounters with castle gates before. The bigger question is, what else are they going to play beyond that? Oh, I also paid 0 attention to their leader ability, which is every 4 turns, turn start, draw a card if you are losing. Ooh. Okay, so we kind of want to make a last-second comeback and prevent them from drawing a bazillion cards and get a huge card advantage. That is sort of doable with Dogger if we put a bunch of Skellige guys in our graveyard and then bring them out last second with Dogger, but not really sure how feasible that's going to be. So we'll go, I think, still Ballista first. That way we maximize the amount of time we have to deal damage with this, and this might end up being one of our primary ways to wear down the castle gate, in addition to Patricide, which we'll get out eventually, but these guys don't count as units, so that's not a huge factor. So let's do this. I think we'll go leader ability turn 1 still. We'll get one of the other Ballista out. And then I'm just not sure what the second card is. I mean, it could be another Skellige guy, I suppose. It's not a terrible idea. That is usually what we do. It's too early, really, for Reynard, unless you're just doing them proactively in anticipation of activating that loyal ability later on. Dogger obviously doesn't really do much of anything on this occasion. So yeah, I guess it's just a warrior, probably. Let's do this, and we'll do that.
Come on, kill me!
Okay, so let's see what they play. Right, that, oh, boosts itself, okay.
My, now that is some fancy weaponry. But it's still got that new war machine smell.
So if we could, say, get something like a scorpion for ourselves, that'd be great. We have seen this before, for what it's worth, but damage all enemies by 1, cooldown 2. Death Wish damage all units on this row by 4, technically. Be kind of nice if we delayed a little bit for that reason, although we kind of, do we still want to prioritize Castle Gate above all else? These are both high priority targets. You are not considered a boss. So we could actually, oh, you're not bronze though. Surely you're not bronze. Okay, so we can't seize you. That'd be ridiculous if we could. We could, however, use Artifact Compression to just take you out of this game. We don't get the Death Wish in that case, which would be kind of nice, but maybe just getting you removed altogether is reason enough. I think we might do that, to be honest, and I think we should probably do that immediately, otherwise you're going to become a big factor. And we do already have some damaging engines on the board here. So we have the ability to still make some progress by using that.
Life is mine now.
Okay, you also will deal damage, sure. We've seen you many times before. Might want to get Patricide out here early, although you're a bronze, actually, so we could steal you for more damage. Damage to enemy by 2 whenever an ally appears, gain 1 charge. We could probably get decent value out of that. Haven't really used muscle at all yet, but seems like it's a decent target. Sure. Just continue whittling away. See how good these ballistae can be for us. Like at this point, we can hit you for a tiny bit of extra damage, although we probably prefer to just remove you altogether with the ballista on our next turn, which I think we can do.
Wise choice.
And another one of those guys. But I think we can now go. We could also do the Divana Runestone, which is usually something we prioritize pretty early. Technically, it's not super time sensitive. In fact, Patricide would be a little bit better if we did that next. So maybe we do you. That should give you an extra charge. Yep. Okay. But I think we can already destroy this. Do we have reason to delay Destroy all palisades, boost all enemies in hand deck on battlefield by 2. So all of our cards get boosted. That's nice. But yeah, it's not like the other guy that we turned into the Jade figurine that damages all their units, so it's not like we benefit from waiting. So why don't we just destroy you? And we'll use the rest of the damage on you. Palisades will go away, we'll get boosted. And we can use these charges to hit you a bit as well. When we're in the lead, however, that is going to help them get more card draw, which is not a great thing. Going after the Arbalest that we stole from them, that's not ideal, because prefer if you went after a Skellige guy. Okay, so you're the weaker of the options. I think we probably just Divana Runestone now, though. And we will eventually need to go Tainted Ale and Infiltrator, because that does take a little bit of time, but I think we're okay for the time being. And in fact, yeah, we're getting close to leader ability time, and that's when we would like to have sacrificed a bunch of the Disgraced Warriors already, because we're going to get Dogger out at that point. So we want to maximize Dogger's value by maximizing the number of these guys in our graveyard. Technically speaking, since this puts them in the graveyard immediately, whereas this takes a turn before they go there, I think we go here, then we do this. Or actually, this, then this would be best to maximize the number of dudes we have in our graveyard that we're getting out when we play Dogger. Okay, so let's target you. And yeah, the ballista damage might not seem that significant from just one turn, but these guys stay on the board as long as they have already started to, I mean, they've already been pretty huge. There's the card draw from their leader ability.
As you wish, master.
Spawn random potion in your hand. That's unfortunate, giving them even more cards. So that does seem to be their greatest strength. So now we do this. Get even more of these guys out here. And now you aren't doing anything anymore. You are, so we should target you. Not quite enough to destroy you. We could hit you here and deal some damage, and between the two of them might be able to remove you, but I think we'd like to actually sacrifice these guys, because we're going to get leader ability back on our next turn. Okay. That gives armor. Yeah. So why don't we just remove... I mean, it'd be nice to get rid of your armor, but I think we just get rid of you right now. Let's do that first. So it's going to be... We'll remove this guy. We'll sacrifice you guys. We'll use Divana Runestone first, then we'll sacrifice you guys. In fact, might not even be able to do that, because these guys are not that big. And then we use Dogger at the very end of our turn to get them back out. And hopefully at the end of the match, or after that, we'll still have enough time to go Tainted Ale and Stray's Infiltrator. So let's do this. Let's do... Ooh. Okay, so who are we sacrificing you to? Because honestly, we can't even sacrifice you to anybody. Okay, it's going to have to be just Divana Runestone by the looks of things. So I don't think we're going to be able to... Unless we also get out, if we go... Reynard and Dogger, but we're not going to have time to use the order abilities we get back from Reynard, so it's not like we can use once to weaken you and then use again with Reynard and then play Dogger. So it's just not fast enough. We would need one extra turn to do that. So I think we just go crazy here. We just, you know, hit these guys. Don't be too concerned about sacrificing these Disgraced Warriors. Okay. So now it's Divana Runestone on you. Does that count as charges for you? It does not count. Okay. But this should, when we use leader ability to get rid of you. Now we will replace you with Dogger and Reynard. Reynard does still make sense, because he will give Patricide the extra charge. It's not, and the Ballistae, I think, as well. But we'll see. This should give a bunch of charges to this guy. So we're going to get all these guys back out. It's just 1 damage per charge, so it's not like that's a huge factor, but it's kind of nice. And yes, that does also get the ballista. Okay, so let's go Patricide first, I guess. Well, you still have 2 units. Try to break through your armor. We should be able to do that. Hopefully, remove you altogether. This won't be quite enough. But then this should be. Can we save your charges? Theoretically, we should be able to. It's like, this is not really a target we care much about. It's not really doing anything anymore, and just whittling away at its armor, which doesn't really make much of a difference right now. So I'd kind of like to not do that. In fact, this might even need to be our Tainted Ale target. Unless you play something bigger. Don't really care much about... Well, I mean, I guess we could destroy you or remove your armor so you're not getting boosted, but then... that would we could put the Infiltrator here, and then it will get boosted every turn. That actually might be best. So that means what? We go Tainted Ale first, then the Infiltrator is probably best way to time that, I would imagine. Right? That's the one... Yeah, that's the one we want to boost up. Okay. So we should still have enough time for this. I think. Just enough. And now that means go after this guy, in that case. And this, we need to be a little bit careful that we don't accidentally over-damage this guy and have to hit you a bit. I mean, if you hit your armor, that's pretty much fine. And we shouldn't over-damage here. If anything, we will... Yeah, we can just destroy like that. Is that extra damage? Oh, it's damaged by 2, not damaged by 1. Okay. It's a little bit better than I was giving it credit for. So next is going to be Infiltrator. Ooh, and sneak the Infiltrator in right here. It's getting some big boosts. And we should still technically be able to hit you. I mean, we don't really want to remove your armor just yet. We'd kind of like to delay that a little bit. So maybe we just weaken you a tiny bit. Like, you'll still have armor after this. If we did this, you'd be exactly on 0 armor, which we don't really want. So we're getting extra value on the Infiltrator, so sure. I mean, yeah. Settle for that. They get the extra card draw from the meteor ability. But we're looking okay at the moment. Now, these guys can add up very quickly. Discard all copies. This unit from hand and deck. If we could destroy you right now, that suddenly becomes a great target for us to go after. So let's do that. We should probably get the Brawler out on the board as well, and then Jade Figurine will be the final play. So do that. This. And should have enough damage here. That destroys 1, I think, was in hand, and a few that were in deck. You should come back and be pretty big. Means we don't have board space at the moment, but we should be able to sacrifice a Disgraced Warrior or 2, and also we'll lose the Tainted Ale, so actually we do have room here. But it is probably still worth sacrificing at least one of these guys, because we have so many on the board. That should be a net positive, and especially since some of these are quite small at this point, just 9 base power. So you would get destroyed if we hit either of them. In fact, we should be able to do that with several. How many Skellige guys do we have on the board? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So losing 9 points means we'll have 8 on the board to gain 16. Yeah, I should be able to benefit from at least 2, if not 3 of these guys. Doing this. Lose 11 to gain, what, 16? Now lose 13 to gain 14, I think, off the top of my head. I might be losing track of the numbers at this point. But it's pretty close in this case. Of any reason why we don't like having as many units on the board? I mean, sure, we'll leave it at the way it is for the time being. Maybe we won't sacrifice you. Okay, but now we should see. Technically, you have less armor, and you do have some benefits when you have armor, so we should go after you. Oh, I thought that was patricide when I clicked that. Yeah, so that was net negative, or I thought it was a ballista. I don't know. It was not the card that I thought it was. At quick glance. And this is our last turn. So this will have to do, and, you know, unless we're sacrificing another Skellige guy, but I think we're fine. Large lead. They have 3 cards, though, and they might even get another round of their leader ability activating here. Might just barely have that happen. So will they catch us? I don't know, but early indication... Whoa, that's big. Early indication, at least, is that the deck looks decent with the changes we've made to it.
Discipline. That is what you
Yeah, if they can add more cards with these guys, then that'll definitely give them enough time to draw another card with their leader ability, I would think.
We did it, Your Grace.
But we did it.
The city is ours.
Okay, so there was all this talk about potential losses. Was that all just to scare us away from this encounter and make us worry that it was going to be too difficult? Or is it actually such that even if we succeed, we still might lose some people? I don't know. We're about to find out.
The Nilfgaardians had indeed prepared well, with grapples to repel hook ladders from the walls and long spears to rain down upon attackers far below. Meve managed on the 4th attempt to breach the defenses, but did so scrambling over the corpses of her own men. The Queen was in the
that's
field
not good.
tent when Reynard arrived with surprising news. To be heard over the groans of the wounded, he had to raise his voice.
Your Grace, a delegation of townsfolk. They seek an audience urgently.
Okay. Also, dude, as an aside, was this really a situation in which people use spears? That's not the way in which I usually think of people using... I mean, spears, most underrated weapon, in that they were actually the most commonly used and most effective in medieval times, which a lot of people don't realize. They assume it's primarily the sword. But this is not necessarily the situation in which I picture the spears being used.
Dozens of burghers stood before the tent. Between them and the Queen, a man knelt in shackles. His face was blooded as if he'd endured a vicious beating just moments before.
Who's this?
Our blacksmith, Todor.
Snarled a priestess in a frayed robe.
He betrayed you, Your Grace. Soon after the Nilfgaardians arrived, within hours in truth, he offered his labor and strength. They didn't even need to ask. Forged arms and armor for them, all for imperial gold.
Okay, so now they're gonna ask us what we want to do about this guy. This scares me, because this is the makings of the type of encounter that has, at times, led people to heroes to leave. So if we are... Well, let's just see what our options are, but I imagine it's gonna be, you know, something to punish this guy big time, or spare him.
Meve gripped the beaten man's beard, tugged upwards, and looked him in the eyes.
Did you forge the hooks and the tips for those spears?
I did, Your Grace.
It was fine work.
Growled the Queen.
Oh,
Damned fine.
she gonna say we could use someone like that? Can't afford to let this guy go?
Show him mercy, milady!
Cried a withered old man in a flour-spattered apron.
When the black-clad bastards captured my son, they were eager to hang him. Todor spoke for him, saved his life.
He helped me too.
Hollered a woman in the crowd.
I were hungry. He shared what little he had.
Okay, and then for a second there, it looked like the game was gonna just make the decision for us, but I don't think it's gonna be that straightforward. I think we are gonna have to choose.
The townsfolk began shouting over one another. Some told of the blacksmith's noble deeds. Others labeled him a traitor, deserving of a cruel and violent end. Meve turned back towards the field hospital, pondering the case.
No.
Then spotted her soldiers' corpses laid out in rows.
Oh
Had
no.
it not been for Todor, there might not have been so many.
Right. Yes. But this is absolutely the makings of one of those key decisions that, if we make the wrong choice, will make some people very mad at us. Potentially have them leave. So we're going to have to think that one over. We can release him, kill him, or have him lashed. Okay, hold on. So, release is the most merciful. Basically, that's if we believe that he's... Basically, people are saying he's a good guy, but he helped the Nilfgaardians. So, is the fact that he... And not just that he's a good guy who helped the Rivians. So, what are his true colors? Is he actually someone who we can, going forward, expect to continue to help the Rivians? Or was the whole, I'm just going to help the Nilfgaardians as soon as they show up, was that actually more indicative of what he would plan to do going forward? I mean, he committed a crime, treason or whatever it technically is, by assisting the Nilfgaardians in the first place. So if we were to release him, that would definitely make people mad at us. The people in our crew mad at us. Especially the whole emphasis on, there wouldn't be so many people injured or dead if not for this guy. So if we were to do that, who in particular would be mad at us? Would we risk any particular hero leaving? I mean, that feels like, if anything, it'd be Reynard, because he's the one that's most closely tied to our troops. But, and I might be wrong about this, but I feel like at this stage, if there were two people on our team who I would not expect to ever leave of their own accord, it would be Reynard and it would be Gascon. Because they've been with us basically from the beginning. And yes, in Ongrin, they were basically kind of sort of spying for the Nilfgaardians in some ways, and we had the option on our end to tell them they needed to go. But I don't think that they themselves will choose to leave. Maybe that is a very dangerous assumption to have, because obviously many other squad mates have left. But it feels like Reynard and Gascon are so central to our team that perhaps, unlike other people, they actually will stay no matter what. So the fact that, if anything, it seems like that's the kind of thing that would make Reynard mad, maybe that's still okay. Is there anyone else, though, who would be mad about that? Gascon? Not really. Barnabas? Release the blacksmith? I wouldn't think that would make him mad. And I mean, then you could also think of, okay, of the various heroes, who is the most disposable? Basically, if anything here, and for the rest of the game, from here on out, if anything ever seems like it would jeopardize us retaining the Skellige guys, we cannot take that risk. Because no matter what we want to do, narratively, with the rest of the game, it might just immediately be game over if we lose the Skellige guys. So do any of these things seem to suggest they might make the Skellige guys mad and leave? Releasing the blacks, I mean, the thing about the Skellige guys is they seem kind of detached from the rest of the group. They're kind of just here. They haven't been that central to the narrative. They haven't really given us any, at least not much, of a warning of, hey, don't do this or else I'm going to have to leave, unlike Isbel. And, for those who didn't have those types of things, it was, they either had it coming for a long time, like Rayla, who was constantly causing trouble, or in the case of Gabor, it was very blatant that the thing that was going on was very clearly tied to that person. Even if they didn't necessarily warn us about something specifically, it was very obviously something that would make them mad. And that's not really the case here for anyone other than, again, maybe Reynard. So we could release the blacksmith, we could have him lashed versus have him killed. I assume lashed is kind of the middle ground here. Obviously, we're punishing him for having committed this crime, but he lives. So it seems like in that sense we are acknowledging that he did something wrong while not taking the most extreme possible route. So we're sparing him a little bit in that sense. Whereas killing him is the most extreme. You could make the case, well, torture is worse than death. I don't know. But I imagine killing is sort of the most extreme option, and that is probably the thing that would make our troops the happiest with us, our rank and file soldiers. But this is more the kind of thing that I would expect Isbel to be mad about if we were to kill this guy here. Far more so than forcing some farmers to leave a town. Because this is actually violence, whereas the other one was, you know, not really directly violence. So, I might be leaning this way. The middle ground, which maybe just avoids, I'm hoping, the worst case scenario. It might not be the best case scenario, but I'm kind of trying to walk the tightrope here. So I think this might be the route we kind of need to take. Not knowing if somebody is going to get really mad at us, and maybe unexpectedly, you know, kind of like what happened with Isbel. Somebody leaves who we didn't think would be mad for us doing this type of thing. So this might be the safest option.
20 soldiers died today, wresting Kaveldun from Nilfgaard's grip.
Said
High
Meve,
morale.
her tone cold and unforgiving.
'Twas your iron that felled them. 'Twill be your blood that pays the debt. 5 lashes for each of the fallen.
Todor's
That's a lot.
torturers were several.
100
as
lashes?
No one man's arm could complete 100 blows.
Right.
Amazingly, Todor survived the ordeal, but his body had been broken. He'd never put hammer to anvil again, and spent the rest of his days a beggar.
Yeah, so I think the potential upside of going the completely spare route would be that maybe he joins our team, or he provides some resource for us. You know, maybe it's not Todor himself, but, you know, it's a trinket that is representative of the weapons or the armor that he created on our behalf, something like that. And so maybe we're missing out on that by functionally, in this case, the end result is he lives, but he's never going to be able to be a blacksmith again. So, yeah, it seems like basically we got what we asked for. I think this is going to end up being the middle ground, which maybe is fine. It's the low-risk approach. I think we got what we asked for, and so I can't really complain about that. Would it have been nice to have gotten an additional reward for completing this encounter? Yes, for sure. And we get a little bit of resources here, of course, but I'm not really sure that's going to make a huge difference either way. But not knowing what would have happened if we went for either extreme this late on in the game, when we are when the margin for error is as small as it is, I just didn't really feel comfortable taking that risk.
He weren't a bad person, milady. He strayed, aye, but deserved no such fate.
I mean, I don't know what the official Rivian and Lyrian law is, but I imagine by the book, committing that sort of crime, it wouldn't be out of the question that that person would be hanged or killed in some other way.
Freedom will cost us dearly. Dearly indeed.
Now, this person is a Debbie Downer. We might lose our high morale even if we continue to talk to her, but I'll try anyway, because we do have a bunch of shrines.
He weren't a bad person,
Okay, so that's all she says. So yeah, we got high morale. So technically it is a slight net positive, I suppose. But that's not really a big concern, because we have plenty of shrines to spare right now. And so I guess, you know, in hindsight...
Your Majesty,
Oh,
the hut's untouched. Ripe grain in the fields, 'tis hard to believe. I feared we'd have another Edirn here, with the black-clads setting fire to all.
I feared nothing of the sort. Nilfgaard's not stupid. Lands it aims to hold, it doesn't destroy.
yeah.
And Willem did bend the knee to the Emperor.
Okay. So yeah, in hindsight, perhaps sparing him might have been best, in that we might have gained some other trinket or the blacksmith himself in our deck. Maybe, and that could have been great. Maybe it was just resources, in which case it's not a huge deal. We already have probably more than we'll ever need at this point. But maybe we gain those things at the cost of losing something that is more precious to our deck or whatever else. So for that reason, I think I still probably am fine with the direction we chose to go in there. And at this point, the key thing is basically, I guess, the overarching thought process before we even went into this encounter, as I sort of alluded to before, was just get through this thing without having some other catastrophe happen. Because this was seemingly the penultimate key hurdle before the final quest of the entire game. Because now we're in this area, and presumably there are plenty of optional encounters throughout this section that we could, and I would like to, complete. But worst case scenario, if for whatever reason, after losing Isbel, it feels like we just cannot compete anymore with our opponent's decks, we could potentially just go straight up to this main quest and basically skip these things and try to finish the game immediately. We at least have that option. Because the worst fear I had was basically, we go here, we can't finish this encounter, we're stuck because there's nowhere else that we can go, there's no other encounters we can do, so there's no other cards that we can get that can improve our chances of success. Whereas here, at least, now we can pick and choose. If an encounter is optional, we can decide. Do we like the prospects of potentially getting whatever reward we might receive from finishing this? Or, if it feels too difficult, and it's not necessary for us to complete it, then we could always say, alright, on this occasion, we'll pass. So at least we have that flexibility. And that is big, because we are getting very, very close to the end of the game. Some more tough decisions, and I'm sure there will still be more to come, but this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here, so thank you all for watching, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.